This is the Motivated Business Show, hosted by me, Mark Terrell, the author of Motivated, the Reluctant Leader's Guide to Building a Business that Sets You Free. In my book, I share the 7-step process to get the measure of your business. M.E.A.S.U.R.E is an acronym that stands for Mirror, Evaluate, Action, Systemize, Unify, Review, and Energize. On each episode, I'll be chatting to a business owner about how they stay motivated and how they've got the measure of their business. So without further ado, let's find out who's joining me on this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Motivated Business Show with me, Mark Terrell. My guest today is all about how to find referrals. And so if you're in business, I'm sure you'd want to listen to how referrals are key to our business and how we can make sure that we're getting plenty of them. And because ultimately that's what we want to do to grow our business, is to be referred. So before we do that, let's just mention, as I do on every episode, the book that I talk about. Particularly inside that book, I talk about a 7-step process, which I call How to Get the Measure of Your Business. And if you want to get a copy of that book, there's a few ways you can do that. You can buy me a couple of coffees, and there'll be a link and a QR code in a second where you can do that. Buy me 2 coffees and I'll send you a copy of my book. Other than that, you can buy a book from Kindle version or a paperback from Amazon, or you can buy it direct from me from my website. Great, and let's just give you the QR code. So that's a quick snapshot where you can go straight to the Buy Me a Coffee. And if you buy me just 1 coffee, it's much appreciated. It just keeps the wheels in motion with regards to the podcast. And keeps the guests coming, and much appreciated any contribution you make. Right, let's introduce our guest. Welcome, Amal.
Morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Looking forward to our conversation. Before we do that, though, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. So,
Mark, I remember a time when I was growing up that everything I asked for was no. My father went into hospital about 3 months before I was born, and I went to live with my grandmother. And everything I asked for, whether it was to join the Girl Guides, to go and play with the next door neighbours, to go on a school trip, it was no. So my mother was faced with bringing up 3 children by herself. I remember one particular night watching a lady walk along the road outside where my grandmother's house was, with 3 heavy bags. And I thought, oh, poor lady in the rain and it's dark. And then she turned into the drive, and it was my mother. So rather than spending the small amount of money on the bus, she walked the 3 miles home with those heavy shopping bags, which were Marks and Spencer's, I must admit, when Marks and Spencer's was cheaper to buy. So really it started a passion in me that many business owners hear the word no too many times. Many business owners have limiting beliefs which affect their mindset. And it can be lonely as a business owner. So I work with business owners to support them, but also to help them grow their business. And the very best way to grow your business is through referrals. So I've been involved with helping people for the last 25 years as a counsellor, and then more recently in 2013 as a coach. So that really motivates me, and that's really what my passion is, to help business owners so they've got freedom and choice.
Brilliant. Thank you for that story. Very inspiring. And I like I say, I'm sure you're going to share lots of things around how, referrals, you can get more referrals, and how you can convert those referrals into customers. So let's start with where people go wrong then. I think most people go out, they have a great idea, a great service or product, and they want to sell it to the world. Where do you think most people go wrong?
In exactly that, Mark. They think, oh, right, I've got this widget, or I've got this good idea, or I've got this skill. And they think, I'll join a network. And they go to that network to sell. And of course, there are other people at that network who are also asking and wanting to sell. So you've got a room with a bunch of people who want to sell their product or service to the wrong people. So, first of all, here's my widget, here's my idea. Who's my target market? Who is going to invest with me rather than, and as you've probably heard me, Mark, say in the past, I hate the word price because you go into a shop and you ask for the price for a bunch of bananas, for example, and you buy your bananas and eat them, and that's it. For most people, it's about an investment. So, who's my target market, and who can I forge a relationship with? Who are that's also their target market, who I don't compete with, um, that would help me. So it's about building relationships, and of course that takes time. If you try and sell something, you might be lucky and somebody buys it once, but after that they're on to the next one, and invariably it becomes about price rather than investment. So I think that's the major mistake that people make is going out to flog their product or service.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, forgive me if I got this wrong, but I think a lot of people, you talked about price there, think that when they're not selling something, people aren't buying it. It's because of the price.
Yeah.
But in my experience, it's not about the price. Would that be something you agree with? Yeah.
Yes, very much.
Mm-hmm.
It's about really what pain does it solve. So for most business owners I talk to, they're looking on to onboard 2 to 4 clients a month, not a huge amount, um, and they then think, oh, I've not got any customers. It's because of the price. No, it's because they haven't clearly articulated what pain they resolve and what pain they help with. So it's not about price. It's what's the cost if you don't do something, and what's the opportunity cost in the long term if you don't have my product or service.
Yeah, I like to talk about businesses. All businesses are solving some sort of problem, aren't we? And it doesn't matter
Correct.
what you're doing, whether you're a corner shop selling groceries or whether you're selling a service, business coaching, whatever it might be. You have to have the mindset around I'm solving a problem, and what is that problem, and particularly what is the person that I want to help most. Because I think a lot of people go out there thinking they can. I definitely did this when I started out. When you talk about networking, I thought I could help everybody, but actually, when you start to narrow it down to the particular people you can work with best, that's when the magic starts happening because you're far more focused on that person, aren't you?
Correct. And it's like almost go "Ooh," and cringe when you hear somebody who might be giving a 60 seconds or a sort of elevator pitch when they say, oh, just refer me anybody. So I say, really, anybody? So you're happy to deal with somebody who turns out to be a drama client for you who doesn't pay you? Well, of course not. Right. So that's not anybody then, is it? So it's really people that you enjoy working with, who appreciate you and value you and see you as part of their journey away from the pain, the business pain, through to the solution. Yes. So it's like, oh, don't say anybody or everybody.
Yes. So how do we find out that? How do we actually sort of really drill down into who that person is? What have you got some particular sort of techniques that you use with regards to finding out what that person is?
Yes. So one of the processes I sit down with clients during the coaching process is exactly the target market. So that will be demographics, i.e., where they live, age, or etc. Psychographics, so what type of emotions they experience, why do they buy things, through to geography. Um, I think one of the few benefits that came from COVID was the fact that most people can now conduct their business online. However, for some people, geography is important, and you don't want to really be travelling, I think, more than an hour to see a client or to be with a client. More than that, it's a full day out.
Hmm.
And I ask people how much or what's the investment for 1 hour of your time. Let's say they say it's £100. So if you're driving 4 hours to a client and then 4 hours back again, that's £800. So really look at what who your target market is, and the other things, who do you enjoy dealing with? For some people, they might have moral and ethical issues to do with, for example, defence or vivisection, animal testing, and they don't want to deal with people. Some people enjoy dealing with um, those in the charitable industry or those in the finance sector.
Mm-hmm.
And because as business owners, we're doing this day in, day out. It's really, who are you motivated to deal with? Who do you think you can best help?
I think a great example of that is actually my previous guest. If you look back on the last episode, was I was talking to Johnny, who's a policeman. He's still a policeman, but he actually works particularly with policemen. That is his target market, and we talked about it. And he's when you understand somebody, you've been there, you've walked the walk, and all that sort of stuff. It puts you in such a better position trying to understand somebody from the outside. It's almost like you've got this inside knowledge, isn't it? So I
Yes,
think
it
that
is. Yeah.
helps. If you walk someone's walk, then and I'm sure you see a lot of coaches that set up. They tend to be solving a problem that they have had themselves. And so once you've
Yes.
been and done it yourself, you're in a better position to understand. Doesn't mean that the you solve it exactly the same way, but once you've been through it, you can understand it better, can't you?
Yes, and that old expression, "Healer, heal thyself." So when you've overcome a problem, or had some, pain in business, then that puts you in a great position because you know how that person feels, so you can relate to them on an emotional level. And of course, we are all emotional creatures, and and have a passion and a purpose. Another area that I work with clients is finding out their why they do what they do, and it will invariably relate to something in childhood or something in their formative years, which they now are very passionate about solving. So yes, there's a whole load of things around target market, why you do what you do, and if you share with people why you do what you do, they buy into you as a person as opposed to what you do.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back to how you introduced yourself, which was this is the 12th episode. No one's done it the way you did it, and it was a masterclass in that you told a story, and understanding our story, understanding and connecting with that is probably the most important thing because we're all on our different journeys. And I can remember putting out a LinkedIn post once, and I just took a photograph of the bus times. And I said, I like going on buses because we're all on a different journey. We're all getting on the same bus, but we're going different places. And it's understanding we're all going different places, and
Correct.
helping people get to where they want to go is the most fulfilling thing that any coach can do, isn't it?
Yes. And also, if they're able to, and I appreciate with some clients, they get on the number 9 bus and then it goes all over the road and all up down the back country lanes and eventually gets to their destination. So that's a client I might work with in a long term um, commitment. And then you've got somebody who gets on number 6 bus and it goes from A to B in the most expedient fashion. And that's great. So I move as quickly as, as that coaching client allows me to. And if I help them to get to where they need to be in 6 months, brilliant. If it's 2 years, then that's great.
And you mentioned the importance of understanding our emotions because we're emotional beings. And how do you see that affecting us with regards to our overall well-being? Because sometimes I find that people are almost they're overly, well, their emotion has just got the better of them. So sometimes you need to sort of get to the bottom of what's causing that problem. So well-being is a key issue, I'm sure, with regards to the work you do.
Exactly, it is,
Mm-hmm.
Mark. And because behind every business owner, there is a person, and they will have a persona that they project to the outside world. I'm this and I do this and I do the other. But behind them, there is that person who might be fragile, they might lack confidence, imposter syndrome, as often it's called. One of the very first things I ask my clients is, how much does it cost, or what's your price, which I say deliberately, And I find that nearly 80% of clients I work with, that they're charging too little for their product or service. Bearing in mind that to become an expert, it's 10,000 hours, which relates to about 15 years. So if you're an expert in your field, then that investment can be higher because you've got so much to offer. And there's a lot of people often say, "Oh, I fear failure." In my experience, people fear success because people don't want to be aligned to people who fail. And if you look at the podium, saying, in Olympics or in sports, it's always one's higher, then two, and then three. Most people focus on the person who's come first. So in being successful, you're putting yourself up there for people to pull you down or attack you. And a client actually said that to me on Tuesday. Said, "I don't want to be that successful because people will be out to get me." And I said, "That's true. But there will also be people who support you." So often people fear success and hide in the wings. But confidence, having confidence in oneself, and at the beginning I said about, why I do what I do. A lot of people listening might go, "Oh, whatever," and other people go, "I want to know to know more about Amal." It's that sort of 50% that you want to talk to. So it's really working with business owners, frustration when things aren't happening quick enough, because through the referral relationships, you're allowing people to buy from you rather than you selling to them. And obviously, I want to sell it to you now, Mark. You might buy in a month.
Yeah.
So having faith and patience and doing the process, doing a couple of things each day or each week, steps that take you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to just talk about the power of a referral as opposed to any other form of client acquisition. I know that's client acquisition is your forte, but why particularly are referrals powerful?
It's powerful for a number of reasons. One, typically for me to go out and sell my products or service takes a minimum of 8 to 10 hours. So by the time I've gone to a network, I've put a proposal in, I've overcome the objections, I've gone backwards and forwards, that's 8 to 10 hours. So if I'm looking to put on board several clients, you're beginning to talk about weeks and months. If, however, I've built a strong relationship with a referral partner who knows, likes, and trusts me, they are the person who effectively are doing the selling. So they're saying, Amal does this. She might not be the cheapest in the market, but she's the best. This is the problem she solved. So by the time I've been introduced to that prospective client, John has done all the selling for me and handled objections, and is because I've trained him to do so. So then, effectively, unless something goes really wrong or I don't hit it off with his client, that opportunity's mine. So one is the time saving, and also the relationship. Because John's introduced me to a client, I'll be naturally motivated to, horrible word, reciprocity, to refer him back, so that we are helping each other, and that person will invest in me rather than buy once.
Yeah,
So the relationship is a longer term one than just something where you just buy it once and that's it.
yeah,
And the insurance industry is a good example. I used to have really good relationships with the brokers, and I'd call them. And now people do it all online, so you've got no relationship. So I purposely go out and find people who are in my local area up here in the Lake District, and build a relationship with the insurance, with the middle person, so they can handle the insurance company for me. So that I have a good relationship with the broker, and just for me, I don't want to use the various tools out there, or various services that I just go compare, go and do a price, bang, finished. No, I
yeah.
want the relationship.
Absolutely. With that, I've always used a broker for my insurance because not only that and you've got that relationship also. Whenever anything happens, there's that one person you can go to, and you know that they're going to help you. They're on your
Yeah,
side. So if you pay, and actually you don't pay a bit more, you actually sometimes pay less by using a broker, because they want to make sure that you stay with them as well. So absolutely,
yeah,
with
exactly.
with regards to that. But what I'm hearing though is the importance of people, understanding people, building relationships with people, and when you have that going on, you're building trust all the way as you go along, aren't you? So the
Correct.
people thing is so important. But so how do you? What's the most effective way to build that relationship and that network, and also how do you build in that trust? How do you make it so people automatically trust you?
And that's a great question. And the automatic bit is interesting. There's a book out there called The Speed of Trust, and it infers that you can speed that process up. So, first of all, is the good old intuition. I have a good intuition about Mark. I have a bad intuition about Mark. I'm indifferent to Mark. So it's always rely on that sort of first intuition, that first feeling. And then, of course, actions speak louder than words. Talk's often referred to as cheap. It's easy to say stuff, but it's actually delivering on what you say you will do. And I think we did this, Mark, when we first met through B2B, our networking group. Is I said, forget about work. Would you mind if we spend a few minutes talking about hobbies and interests
Hmm.
to get to know each other?
Yeah,
Because then you're building the relationship with a person rather than what we do. And then the next process is, why do you do what you do, Mark? What's your passion? Um, and then probably in the third meeting, then we start talking about work. So how could I possibly refer you? Who's your target market? Who do you enjoy working with? And of course, it takes time. Sometimes, and I've done this myself, you refer somebody too early when you don't know them well enough. And then your client comes back and says, why did you introduce me to that person? It's been a disaster. Then your credibility's gone.
yeah.
So it's time and knowing that person and understanding them, and of course actions. Actions
Mm.
speak louder than words.
Yeah, and going back to your reciprocity thing, I managed to say it right, I think. It's people again try to speed that up. I think just because you do something for somebody, that doesn't necessarily mean automatically they're going to give something back
No,
to you. But it's a time thing, and if you're consistently showing up and you're helping, and all those things build up, then that builds up trust, and people understand you better, so you become more
yeah,
referable on
yeah,
that sort of thing. So it's when people try to speed that process up, I think that does
yeah.
backfire.
It's counterintuitive, and one
Yeah.
of the great questions I ask people to ask the people who should be referring them. So it'd be Mark. I've referred you 2 or 3 clients over the past 6 months. How can I help you refer me, or refer me more if you've passed me one referral? How can I help you refer me? Because then that puts the person not in the defensive position. So, oh, she's right, I haven't referred her. It's what do I really understand what she does, and do I really have I really looked in my little black book for people that I could refer to Amal.
Mm.
Many of the other networking organisations out there, where they're very very structured, will just give you a referral which isn't very well qualified. I'll call this person. They mentioned they might like some coaching. That's not a referral. There's a 5-step process to make sure that the referral you're giving is highly likely, up in the 70s, 80%, to become a client. So yes, it takes time, patience, lovely word.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned coaching. I mean, there is so much, which is great. There's lots of a breadth of different sorts of coaching. So you've got to understand what type of coaching each person is actually offering before you just throw them like, here's a coach, they'll sort you out, sort of thing. Because
Yeah,
that might not be the case. You might not actually. I can't help this person in the slightest, sort of thing. But there's always the opportunity to pass on to somebody else. That's the other thing you can do is, okay, well, thanks for the referral. It's not my ideal, but I do know someone that will be an ideal referral. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a really positive point you've raised there, Mark. And if for the listeners, that remember the old AA advert, which used to be the automobile organisation, used to be, no, I can't do it, but I know a man who can. So if you become the go-to person, so people ring you, Mark, I know this isn't your area, but do you know a good insurance company, or do you know a good health company, or do you know a good painter? You become the go-to person, and then they introduce you. Oh, Mark can help you out with that. So that's another added value you can give to your clients by establishing yourself as a go-to person, making sure that you have the right relationships with the people that you are then going to refer, because your credibility is on the line as well, and reputation.
absolutely, always important to remember that. Mal, I'm going to give you an opportunity just to sit back for a couple of minutes. I'm going to just talk about my 7-step model. If you're at the beginning of here at the beginning of the program, talked about the book, and inside that book, I talked about the 7-step model. There's a chapter for each step, and it's I take this opportunity just to summarise what the guest has been talking about, in particular today, Amal. And this is pretty much every single episode. I always highlight the importance of understanding ourselves. Self-awareness is key. And if you are going to develop the networks and being able to be referred, you've got to understand yourself well. Understand the things that drive you, your strengths, your weaknesses, and all those sort of things are important to understand. And it's the why the first step in the process is to put the mirror up and understand yourself is key. I think what Amal has been talking about particularly is we've got to be out there in the action zone, trying things out. We talked about when you are developing relationships, it's not a 5-minute thing. You've got to go out, do it, see how it works, and learn from your experience. And yes, it takes time to build up those relationships that will then develop into referrals. So don't be afraid to give things a go. The action stage is key, that we've got to try things. People aren't suddenly going to knock on our door and say, we desperately need your services. You've got to go out there, meet people, and that's where the magic happens. And once you meet people, and things work, so have a system. And Amal's talked about having a system, a 5-step process where she evaluates whether a client is ideal for her. So when you're coaching, we can't help everybody. There's no coach out in the world that can help everybody. So it's important to have a system with regards to evaluating and making sure that you're taking on the right clients for you, and that you don't fall into the trap of just taking on any client and then having the trouble of dealing with clients who are not right for you, and the consequences of that. I think I'll also just quickly mention motivation and the key to this. When we are talking about particularly coaches, we talk mainly that people set up coaching business because they want to make a difference. But making a difference doesn't pay the bills. And the key here is, if you be listening to what Amal's been saying, is that we've got to get referrals, we've got to get customers, and customers pay us money. And so the key that I find to a successful coach is that they have to have a focus on generation, and that's the drive for money and material satisfaction. It might not be your most important motivation, it might not be the reason why you set up your business, but you have to have a system with regards to generating referrals so that you can get the leads and get the money in your bank, so you can make the difference that you really want to, because ultimately if you don't, your business won't survive. So there we are, just a quick summary of the relevance of the 7-step process. Amal, have you got any comments about what I've just said?
Just to add to one thing that you said, Mark, that 5-step process is also used to help qualify a referral. And often the biggest area that people miss out is the need. So in their excitement and eagerness to give somebody a referral, it's establishing that need. So that 5-step process can be used for both. But thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah, great. I think you've hit on some really important points here with regards to how businesses survive. And if you can't find enough customers and get enough customers through the door and paying you money, then ultimately your business is not going to thrive. And we've talked a lot, well, not a lot, but particularly about coaches. We are coaches in completely different areas of business, and we have different things that we can help our customers with, our clients with. So just before we finish up then, Amal, anything that's come out of our conversation that you really want to sort of go back to and leave our listeners with regards to the rest of their day?
People, there are two aspects of our survival. In order for us to survive and being part of a group, it's liking somebody. So I like that person, and we are alike, so we are similar in our values and beliefs. So the chances are, frankly speaking, if you don't like somebody, the chances are they don't like you. They're not going to buy or invest in you or refer you. But if you like them and they like you, then you've got a great foundation for a referral relationship and a relationship. So work with people that you like.
Brilliant, simple. Thank you, Amal, for your time today. Really enjoyed our chat. Sadly, the time has run out.
Thank you, Mark.
But we will see each other. We network regularly together, so we will catch up very soon. But for now, thank you for your time and have a great day.
Thank you, Mark, and you too.
So we are. There's Amal. If you were interested in anything we talked about, particularly with regards to how to get more referrals, then don't hesitate to reach out to Amal. If you've got any questions about what we talked about, leave some comments wherever you're watching this, either in the comments in LinkedIn or the comments on YouTube. Either of us will be more than happy to get back to you and answer your question. And obviously don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us if we can help you in any way. Just to reiterate then, the book, the 7-step process is in that book, and there's a chapter for each of the 7 steps. And there's also actually 2 other chapters where I talk about the importance of looking after yourself and also enjoying the journey, because businesses aren't, we talked about the bus journey, might be taking you slightly off track, but actually eventually, as long as you get there in the end, that's the important thing. So hopefully the book will give you that help. If you'd like to get a copy, you can buy me 2 coffees, and I'll send you a copy of my book. And if you'd like to contribute to the podcast, it would be much appreciated. Again, buy me a coffee, and it all helps to keep the wheels in motion, as it were. And the easiest way to do that is use the link in the comments, or you can scan that QR code, which will take you straight to my Buy Me a Coffee page. Thank you for those that joined us live, and if you're catching this on replay, again, don't hesitate to get in touch. But for now, thank you for all those that get value for this and get in contact, and thank me for all the great guests that I get. I'm very grateful. For now, have a great day, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Motivated Business Show.